Raz. Ejha.
To strieľa. Viete to tak?
Musíme to...
Mám teda tuto nižšie, alebo vy to viete tam čisto ten výstup z toho?
Raz. Ja to nie, tuto musíte si dané.
A ktorý to? Ktorý výstup ide do toho?
To je fón treba dať nižšie, alebo čo treba tuto dať nižšie? Ako víte?
Ja som v tom pôvodne nevidel.
Aha, tak tento tu phones, hej.
Ty si najpovolanejší.
Hej, phones tam je napísané.
Takže toto by malo byť, no skús. Raz, dva.
Ešte trošku nižšie, kľudne. Alebo nie.
Raz, dva. Raz.
Môžem vás poprosiť, že pán zvukár by chcel naladiť ten zvuk, že či by ste aj testovne niečo rozprávali aj do jedného, aj do druhého. Najprv jeden, potom druhý, že aby, či je to dobre nastavené. Hello. You hear me? Do you hear my microphone or you hear my voice? Or both? It's okay. That's good for the technique. Applause for the technician. Thank you.
A teraz počujeme asi aj ten druhý mikrofón, že? Skvelé. Výborne, výborne. Ďakujeme.
So, does it work?
Okay. So we cannot start because they are still Tak, dobrý večer ešte raz všetkým. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first public lecture in the series of Reflections of Architecture 2022. I'm very happy to welcome among us our dear first guest, who is actually my friend, I hope so, Zsolt Gunther, architect from the Office 3H Architects from Budapest. I have already introduced him. This is actually funny how I introduced you, because I said to them that you are a kind of architect who is developing the legacy of Hungarian modern movement. I connected you with those great guys like Laszlo Moholy-Nagy and Marcel Breuer, etc. So now I hope you are enough nervous to start your lecture, because they have great expectation. Try to imagine. So Zsolt, I'm very, very happy that you are here, that you accepted our invitation, and I'm also happy that you actually start our series, because I mean you are one of the established offices in Hungary, but not this kind of, let's say, offices known from these developer projects, etc., etc. So I'm very, very much looking forward to your lecture and your new work. Now I would stop with my introduction, because I have done it already lately. So yeah, the floor is yours, Zsolt, please.
Thank you very much. It is, we had COVID, you too, 2 years ago, and I said, okay, I do something else, not only architecture. I've done a rhetoric course when you are taught how to speak in front of 48, 49 people. How many are you? Well, so many. And then one of the things what I've learned was if you introduce somebody, it's very important not to put too much burden on him or her. So it has happened. I've got too much burden, okay? And one advantage, if you don't have to be introduced to each other, that you can go to the deep with your conversation at once. So as I've arrived here, we have started our conversation quite deep about political correctness. And I have to tell you, I was not politically correct, because the name of the file, what I've put it here, is Pozsony. But it's correct here, Bratislava. Sorry for that. And another thing what is connected with political correctness is actually the role of women and men as architects. And as I've heard, more than 50% of the students of you are women. Very good. We have 2/3 in Budapest. But the fact that the women are disappearing later on in their career, there are no bosses. Please do something against it. Okay, women, please do that. And this was actually the cause why I've changed my presentation just before my lecture. So perhaps it's not going to be perfect at the beginning, but it's going to be different than what I thought for myself. This is actually exported from a previous presentation, which was done in Budapest about 2 weeks ago with my wife. She's also architect, and she's the boss in our firm and in our family, I have to tell you. As we met, I've met a few girls, but I've met her before my wedding. And I had my wedding with her. And before we had this wedding, we found a common denominator. It was architecture. It was quite funny to talk about architecture with a woman. And she understood me, and even she's better architect, I would say, than me. Very soon we have found out that we can work together. It's a very old picture, and not a digital one, an analog one. it is back in 1991, a meeting with European architects. It was short after the change, as Europe has become free for us, for you too. And the name of the meeting was Utopica. There was even a magazine at that time. It was actually edited by European architecture students. And of course we thought we can change the world. I don't think it anymore that I can change the world, but you have to think that you can change the world. And you have a lot of tasks before you. I'm going to talk about it. And about my or our failure that we cannot change the world anymore. And then we said, okay, we start our career as architects. We have just had a few years, and it's a family affair, family things, in Austria, just to study, to work in good offices. It's very important to work in good offices and to have some experience in good offices. But then we returned to Hungary because we thought we have better chances. Because in Austria everything was perfect, schools were built, houses were built. In Hungary in 1994, we went back in 1994, everything was in ruin, and crisis and everything, and we said, okay, that's the best place to work. And then we said, okay, we make a firm or an office, and we call it 3H. And I think I don't have to explain why. It is the pencil, and we still think that it's a very adequate tool for doing architecture. Not the best one, because you have to think a lot before you draw. 3H, it makes a mark, you know. It's difficult to erase it. So you have to know what you do. So this is also the way how we work together, that we talk a lot, we think a lot, we discuss a lot. And this is my wife. This is me. And actually, we said 3H, the office, is not only us, but it's a bigger group of architects. And we think together, we discuss together, and we do projects together. And I have to tell you, we do a lot of projects, and we build not so many projects. Perhaps we are lucky because the projects what we build, then they are going to be perhaps better because we have more time to do that. Now we have a problem because now we build a lot. We have about 7 or 8 construction sites parallelly, and it's very difficult to control things if you want to control things till the last detail. So if 3H is not us, this is our team about 1 year ago, and we said this is when you conquer your land. This is our new land. We have bought a small villa in Budapest, and we are going to make it our own office. So now we have the construction firm, and perhaps in a year, if Professor Moravčíková is going to invite me again, I can show you pictures of our new office. And of course, this is our family. This is one side, and I show you a very private picture. This is our other family with children, and it was about 10 years ago. They are bigger now. So it's quite funny if you have actually a double life and the same wife everywhere, you know. And it's funny because you can understand each other. And family, family 1 and family 2 is mixed together. It's difficult to have your private life. You always talk about architecture. That's a problem. You have to. You don't have to do that. No challenges. We thought in 1990 that we are going to change the world. We have so many things to do, and I have to tell you, architects are very characteristic person. They are always optimistic, you know. You make a competition project, you don't win. You get nervous, you drink something. Next day you get up, what are you going to do? Architecture, or another competition project. Hopeless. And or you win, and then you don't get the commission. Or you win, you get the commission, and then it's not going to be built. A lot of dramas, but you have to be optimistic all the time. But now the question is, what is ahead of us? What is our vision of the future? Why do we have to change the world, or do we have to change the world? What are the problems what we are facing? This is not too far, this picture is not too far from you. This is the Great Hungarian Plain, 1 or 2 years before, but now it was worse. Water is disappearing. We have a kind of climate change. We haven't, 10 years ago it was not so bad, I have to tell you. Perhaps you can remember. But now it was really hot. Every summer, very bad. This is one thing, one thing what we haven't thought before. Sorry. And such images were usual from Africa, but not from Europe. The next one is the virus, the coronavirus. We had to keep distance all the time, with a lot of dead people, and a lot of tragedies in the families. So what can we do with this fact that we have this virus? We had virus before, of course. It was also in Africa, in South America. But actually, if it doesn't affect you, you don't feel it really. And we have the war. After the Second World War, we hadn't thought that a nation can attack another one. It's very sad. This is another challenge that we have in front of us. And of course, we have the energy crisis, which is actually connected to some extent with a war, but it's also without war. Because energy, I don't know whether you know that the gas, the price of the gas is no more a question of whether it's present or not present. It's a question of the value of the gas at the stock exchange, of what people think in 10 months or 10 years, what it's going to be. So it's a strictly manipulative thing. It has to be changed, of course. But these are the challenges. And you are in the position that you can say something to it. Of course, we want also be part of the debate. I don't know whether we manage. But in order to have any idea what we are going to do, we look backwards sometimes. And whether we can solve these problems, these are two big ideas. We have to start with small steps. And we said, okay, it was 2 or 3 years ago, 4 years ago, as we started to make a book, as we collected our ideas, what we have done so far, and perhaps we have a kind of base on which we can build and then go forward and find some ideas what we can do in the future. It was not a drama for us at that time. We just wanted to make a book, to make a kind of comprehension of what we have done so far. Because I think if you have too much practice, you actually lose the direction where you go. You lose the vision, what you want to realize later. So it was a very good thing. And to think about the future and, of course, the playground of architecture. And I hope that we are going to talk about it later. And then it was a dream, of course. And we had this dream about 7 or 8 years. We said we don't want to publish the book in Hungary. We want to publish it somewhere else. And we had some connections with Berlin. And 5 or 7 years ago, we had a lady, an editor, but after a few meetings, she has disappeared. Then, okay. But in between, we didn't give up our dream, so we went further, and I had some courses in Germany, and I had a friend there, and he helped me with finding another editor, and we have invested 2 years of really hard work to make a book in order to explain to the world, or to Europe, what is architecture about in Hungary. And I think this is right now quite interesting also for you. because I'm not going to only talk about our architecture, but also how we work or how is our context. And that's why we thought that we don't make a book on our projects and our buildings. We make a book on how we see the world. And we are going to also share our vision, or not only our vision, but our sources of inspiration. And then we said we have 4 topics which are important for us. And we group all our buildings or projects around these 4 topics. And the first one is context. Context is very important, and I think it's extremely important in Middle Europe to have any kind of reaction to the context. And this image is not too far from you. It's, I don't know it in Slovak, Neusiedlersee. Perhaps in German it's better. What's in Fertet, Neusiedler, okay. It's a very nice surround, but very typical also with the road and also with the scenery, the slightly undulating slopes and so on. And if you go to the villages, you see something quite unusual here. It's not unusual here in Slovakia, but somewhere else in Europe, that you have very dense villages, very densely built-in plots. Actually, you have these narrow plots on one side, the buildings, and in between you have a narrow green area where you can gain access to the buildings. So it's very typical, and actually most architects do not care about it. How to think about building on the plot, on the side of the plot, to make. And I think it's very important to have this kind of contextual reaction in order to make something new, which is actually rooted in our region. And we have the same region. We have Middle Europe or the Carpathian Basin. And perhaps it's better known to you. Who knows where it is? It is your context. No one an idea? It is not in the book. It is my photo. Spišský hrad, exactly, yes. And who knows the name of the horse? No, I don't know it either. But actually, this is also the context, which is very important to deal with if you work somewhere. Context, okay. And this is a very first building which was designed about 20 years ago, and it's in the countryside. I forgot to tell you that we have started in Győr. We had a smaller office, about 5, 6, 8 people. But then we have run short of commissions, and we said, okay, we go to Budapest, better chances. But this was the period where we were very much occupied with the countryside, how to build in the countryside. And we have built some buildings with pitched roof. As we started our office, we said we were not going to make any pitched roofs. Okay, we changed the world. No pitched roof, just flat roofs. And then we have done a few industrial buildings. Then you don't have to make a pitched roof. It was not a problem. But here the prescription was you have to make a pitched roof. Then okay, we try to do that. And what we said, okay, we make a pitched roof, but still we have a flat roof under the pitched roof, and we show the flat roof. But what we have examined during our design process was how to use those elements which are very typical for this kind of buildings. For example, the porch. The porch is quite usual in Hungary, and I think also in Slovakia, this transitory space which is covered, but you have free air coming inside. So very nice during the autumn, during the spring, when the weather is nice, and you can see old ladies sitting here in villages. And back to the context, to the very, very narrow context. This is a building for 22 people with mental disabilities. in a small village or on the outskirts of a small village in a pine forest, and where you can feel the needles under your feet, the rustling of the pine trees, and also the smell of the pine. So very, very emotional area where we could put this very small building. And back to our examination, this is the porch. This was one part. The other was actually the pitched roof, how we can do another kind of pitched roof. And we said, what is actually the main reason why we have this pitched roof? It's also climatic. Because of the heat, it has a kind of protection. And the air can blow through, and the hot surfaces do not radiate the heat, the hot air or the heat to the remaining building. And we have taken, here you can see the floor plan, a very simple one. We have taken the porch and we have extended into the height, so it's 2-story height. And we have even made some distinctions. For example, a protected one, this is a lattice in front of it, and this is a semi-protected and a not protected space. It is quite interesting to see that people have used this protected in a different way, and not protected also a different way. And we have done a small thing. We have put here a commando station, the living room, so people could watch the other ones, what is happening there. So it was quite funny. And I have to tell you that after 10 or 15 years, the building has been exactly the same as what you see here. So people has cared about their building very much. And here also are still modernistic, let's say, feature, or we said no to the pitched roof. We have some kind of abstract element, but here the porch and this roof is quite different. So it is, the goal was to do something different out of traditional elements. And this is how it is in the small forest. The second one is a competition project. We haven't won. The day after we got up and did our business again. We did a third prize. This is a deportation memorial for people from the Great Plain who were deported in the 1950s, and these are sheep yards. Not exactly the sheep or the sheep stables. Not exactly the ones what they had, only similar ones. They had different proportion, but the texture, the materials are the same. That's thatched roof, actually. And what we have done is actually to alienate the form of those stables into a different one, but still having the same material and having it very simply. Actually, what the jury said later, I had a friend in the jury, and he said, when he knew that we have done the project, that actually we were the first, but then they said, no, they go under the ground, it's very expensive. And then we have came back to the third position. So we have this building, and this is actually, this part is actually an exhibition area, and this is for just thinking, just remembering. And we have a very technical building for let's say, toilets and for things to buy, and also restaurant here. And here you can see the section with the exhibition area. And there's also what was questioned, an outlook, which we didn't understand, but you can go up, and here you can have a very nice view of the plain. You know, what is about a plain? Nothing. There happens nothing, actually. But you can look out and see the nothing. And what we have put, this is our object, because it's rather an object. What we have put here is actually these crosses. We had 12 crosses because there were 12 such stables, or 12, not villages, but but smaller plots with such buildings, with people who were living there. And actually there was no railing, no guards, and they didn't flee. You know why? Because they couldn't go anywhere, because everybody was had fear to take them up, you know, to let them in their houses. So it was really very bad era at that time, the 1950s and between 50 and 55 in Hungary, where people were taken away from their homes and put into such shelters. Sometimes with their families, sometimes alone. And it's the reason why, of course, they had some land before the Second World War. And there was a very simple economic reason, because there was a shortage of workforce on the lands, and in such a way the state could have workforce in the lands. And this is the reception area, the same form but different materials. Yes. The second topic is for us the intermediate spaces. In Hungary, we have a lot of intermediate spaces. One of them is the porch, what I've mentioned already. But on a bigger scale, we have the same intermediate spaces in Budapest. If you go around, you have a lot of residential buildings with gangways built around the turn of the century, of the 20th century. This is a typical building, and also there is a very interesting way in, which is covered again, but actually you have the outdoor climate there. So this is a very strongly inspiring thing. And the same thing in the 1930s in the downtown of Budapest, where you have the same passageways, not in this scale, on a smaller scale, but with qualities which are very important. And if we go forward in history, then the next one is the Southern Railway Station, built in the 1970s, and you have also these intermediate spaces. You don't stay there, but you go through. And the experience is really very nice. And this is a very important inspiration for us, that we deliberately make these intermediate spaces. So one building is an office building, a good example for that. This is a purely investment thing, where we had some conspiracy with the chief architect of the district. It meant that we had to use the maximum of the plot. It was no question, but we had a support of the chief architect to make something else, this canopy. And what is very important, there is a thoroughfare, so you can walk through. And if you look at the site plan, you are here. This is a lot of traffic. There's a lot of traffic here, and here you have schools and public institutions. And this is the metro station. So it's very important that you have a connection. If you make an office building, and if you are lucky to have such a plot, you have to think about what you can give to the community, what you can give to the public, to the people, that they can use it. And thus, we could create some transitory spaces, so some intermediate spaces. But the idea was different at the beginning. We said, okay, we make a kind of collage of modernistic elements. In order to make one, we said, okay, we take the ribbon windows of the which year? You are at the end of your studies, 1920s, 30s. Then these V-pillars from South America, Oskar Niemeyer. My wife loves Oskar Niemeyer. I'm sometimes jealous of Oskar Niemeyer. And then the third one is actually the canopy. It was actually the conspiracy with the chief architect that he said he needs this canopy. And we have done this canopy out of concrete, reinforced concrete, but with some holes in it. And I tell you how it looks like, this one. And this is the third element of modern architecture. Now we come to our era. This is parametric design. It was not a conscious thing for us. It was just, we have just started to play with it. And here you can see we have this rhombus holes, and we have the same holes on the bottom of this plane, and on the top it's always different. If you are at the edge here, they are smaller because there's too much light, you need more shade. And if you come to the end of the canopy, they are getting bigger because you need more light. So it is a kind of design tool what we use because it is needed, it has some sense. And some very nice things what we have developed in the meantime, that we have actually some light, indirect light, and these tilted surfaces are lit from the vertical surfaces. But you can see here. And again, another topic, the context, this modernistic context, that we have actually a building from the 1970s, which has been demolished since then. That's the usual story, that these buildings has no value. In my eyes, they have value, and actually our building was a reaction to it. We have 3 wings here, and not the typical one, not the typical reaction. The typical reaction, we have tried it a few more times before, would have been to build along the street and to have a building block, a real building block. But we said no, we make 2 wings, and we put a third one, not because we have 3H, but it was very funny to have these 3 ones. And we have a kind of stepping down of this volume of these prisms towards this direction, because we have residential buildings here and we have office buildings here. So everything is based on logic, and then we have created something totally different. Funny enough that the investors, they want to sell their product, and they say it is called vision towers. This is 1 tower, 2 tower, the 3rd tower. It has nothing to do with tower. But the reason why we have used different heights of the ribbons here is that they want to make it different. And we thought about it, how can you make these towers different? A very simple thing, that you have it from the floor, the glazing from the floor till the ceiling, here from the parapet to the ceiling, and here quite normal one, a cheap one. Of course, this is for KPMG. This is for the cheap clients. It's quite funny that architecture can be ironic. This is full of irony. So think about irony if you make your next project. Okay, this is a quite interesting project, what we have done. It is an invited competition right now. We have won it. But since we have a problem with our economy, everything has been stopped, so it has been stopped. There is a shortage of workers. The problem is that we have a shortage of workers, manual workers, masons, plumbers, and so on. And some construction firms, the big ones, have thought that, okay, we are going to make a new school, vocational school, which is called Knowledge Building School. And they just made a competition for that, and they need, of course, finance from the government. And what we thought, we are going to make, we didn't think at the beginning, but we have done transitory spaces here. But the very beginning was that we use something what these people are going to use during their whole life. And these are these containers. You can imagine a construction site with a lot of containers. They are sitting there, people, and thinking about how to construct it more effectively or more quickly, and so on. So this is actually the beginning of our idea. And then we have put all these containers together, like here, and then we have taken out a few, and then we have pulled them apart. And so these containers are actually classrooms office rooms, and of course downstairs we have these workspaces, and they are not the same size, they are not at the same line, so they are not real containers. They have, if you have a container city later as on a construction site, it shouldn't be like that, but they are learning how to build containers. And here you have actually an axis and smaller voids or rooms where they can chat with each other. And in the height we have also a kind of play of intersection, what you can see here. And of course they needed a students' hostel, and this is a separate one. This is a very dramatic picture. Now we have come to the idea that if you want to win a competition project, you always have to make a dramatic picture. It is the 30th of June in Budapest, a huge thunderstorm you see here. The sun goes down. People are happily welding here because they love their métier, their future métier. And then these are basketball players, and these are some rather on the theoretical part and so on. And you have wonderfully lit spaces. Perhaps this was the reason why we have won the competition, I don't know. And this is the intermediate space where you can go through, and actually you always have different colors. These are corrugated steel panels or colored steel panels, and you have really a very varied situation with stairs, with voids, and of course to know where to go, which is your classroom, numbers and colors. We still have the hope that's going to be built. The next project is I said last time during the lecture that this was an ideal procedure. This is the University of Art and Design, Mohli Nagy, where the program was very well done. I think it's very important that you have, as an architect, you have a very good program. If you have a very good program, then you don't have to think about architecture because the program leads your hand, actually. It has so much input that you have a lot of inspirational ideas. They had a special committee which is called MOME Laboratory, and they worked for 3 or 4 years to compile a program which actually contains the future of the university, a vision of the university, how it's going to work, what kind of challenges they are having, and so on. And on the basis of this, there was we say international competition, but all the international competitions in Hungary are national competitions because everything has to be submitted in Hungarian, and everything is thoroughly, it's the same as in Switzerland, and I don't know how it's in Slovakia, but all over the world. So it was a competition, and happily enough, we have won the competition, and on the next day, we still had the winning entry, and funnily enough, we were commissioned. We were happy. Actually, I made my doctoral studies at this university, so I had some connections with the people. I knew them, and actually we have started to work before we had our commission. So it was a risk commission, I would say. But it was a very tight period when we had to design the project, and I had a few other connections with this project. One is very important. I go through quickly. This is the site. Actually, these are the outskirts of Budapest. Not the outskirts, but it's very close to the city boundary. So we have villas and very green area. It's on the Buda side. And we had a task of making 3 buildings. One of them is existing. The other one too. Altogether 4 buildings. Okay. You can see the change of the scale upon this building. This is a classicist building from 1540 or something like that, and there were just vineyards around. And then slowly a lot of buildings, bigger buildings and so on. And this one is the former People's College, built in 1950s, 1953 as far as I can remember, socialist realist style. I think I don't have to speak a lot about socialist realism in this building. And it has been also the home of the university for a long time. And then, according to the original layout, there was another building here, which was built, and another building here. And it had to be demolished because it was in very bad shape. It was not quite well used. And we had to extend this building with two other buildings. One for the bachelor studies, one for this one is for master studies, and this one is for the PhD studies. And how we won was actually that we have connected all the buildings with one axis. And they were connected also under the ground because of the idea that if an art student has something which is precious and it has to be photographed, he has done it here or she has done it here, and it has to be photographed here somewhere else. There are two technical buildings which are existing already. Then it's very practical if you can go through the building in a covered area. So this is actually, and back to our theme, to the intermediate spaces, this is actually a series of spaces, spaces of encounters on each side of the building, and it is like a pulsating small city where you have small piazzas, small streets, and you have the chance to speak with people, meet people, and exchange ideas. And then my other burdens. He's not so well known, Zoltán Farkasdi. He was my professor at the university, and we had the last course in my last class, and he died afterwards. So, and he was really, really very vivid and very good person, and he was the one who has done the building in the middle. A very small detour. In the 1950s, architects were forced to make socialist realist buildings, but they were actually educated in a different way. They were modernist people. And these people tried to find a way out. And how to find a way out, I'll show you. During the Second World War, they were just students or have almost or finished their studies. And they went for the last years to Scandinavia, either for practice, for practical studies, or for just normal studies. And they were really infected by Scandinavian architecture. And how it started in Hungary, it was actually very Scandinavian influenced architecture. I'm going to show a few other pictures later. And this goes back a bit to Scandinavia, but also to Hungarian rural architecture. A very simple building with classrooms on both sides and a corridor in the middle. And we have turned everything upside down later. But back to the most important figures of this university, who have played with the Rubik's Cube? Who knows Rubik's Cube? Not everybody. Okay. The ones who haven't tried it out, I would say it's very good also for architecture because you can think in space. Okay, that could be even a course here, introduction how to solve the problem of the Rubik's Cube. So he's the one who has invented the Rubik's Cube, and it was in this building. I can show you then in which room. Then the real burden is Mohri Nagy. He is the Bauhaus teacher, and then he moved to America, and there he was also professor. And actually, we couldn't find anything what is interesting made by him. His personality was interesting. He was such an inspiring person. Of course, he has done a lot of very beautiful photographs and so on, but he was a very, very inspiring person. And now we've been with my wife in Finland during the summer, and I've started to appreciate Alvar Aalto at the age of 58. So you still have time to appreciate Alvar Aalto. And I've even bought, I've appreciated him before, but now I really appreciate him. There are some steps to how to appreciate Alvar Aalto. I've even bought a very thick biography written on Alvar Aalto, and he was actually, according to the book, a close, if not friend, but a close, he was in a very close relationship with Moholy Nagy, and he also describes, or the writer of the book, that Moholy Nagy was a very, very inspiring person. I mean, even architects could get ideas, and everybody could get ideas out of Moholy Nagy. So he's actually he has given the name to the university. Okay, this was the room where Rubik's Cube has been invented. This one. And then we said, okay, we have something to do with these guys, with these important guys. And we said, one building, this is the flagship building of the university. This is for research, for the vision of the future. We said, okay, we make a cube, and you can even turn it. It's like a Rubik's Cube here. We have, and this is actually the axis. You enter the building here, and you go along an axis, and you have these smaller piazzas and everything. What is following this axis? And the second one, we use again this building for Moholy Nagy, and he had these light experiments. He played a lot with natural light and with artificial light, and with blurring of different objects, this kind of blurred vision. And we try to use the same with these cast glass elements, how these elements reflect light, how they let through light in different light conditions, in different seasonal conditions, and even one mathematical play, what you can see here a bit, that we have smaller gaps here, upstairs, and bigger gaps downstairs. It's again because of light, the amount of light, to get more light here because there's less light here, and to have less light here because there's more light from outside. I hope you understood what I said. It's a bit complicated. But our main concern was, and I haven't got a picture about that how is it from the inside, whether you can see, what can you see from the inside. And our brain is wired in a way that you can see, actually, you can feel the whole thing through small slots or gaps. So everybody who is inside the building can fully enjoy the outside nature and the outside world from the inside. So these are some amazing images for me, because I haven't thought that this building, a very simple building, has so many faces, let's say. And something about the process. It was a really very interesting process. We had a program. As I told you before, it was an ideal program, everything well thought. But then we had another process. The problem with a competition project that you do something without knowing who is the client, or you guess who is the client. And then if you win the competition project, you get confronted with the client. And you have a lot of people. You have the chancellor, you have a ministerial commissioner who was the former rector, you have the rector, and they are like that, you know. It's not a happy business. He is one of the leaders of the MOME Lab. Then somebody from the investment office, this is from the government, who controls architects' fees, for example. This was quite low because, and all the other fees of the construction. Then a lot of other people who like to be very important, you know, and they have some ideas, for example. That, for example, the former rector should be very tough. It has to be some kind of example for the students. And if you see it as an equation, then it doesn't work really. Cleaning of the windows, and what about the pigeons, and so on. You know, that's and how you can drive this whole process through this, let's say, forest of opinions and people. That's really the art of making a building. I go back to this one. We have done about 50 versions, perhaps only 38 versions of the facade. And this is the last one. And this is the same one as the first one, with which we won the competition. But sometimes during the lunch on Sunday, the former rector called no more me, my wife, but the same tension, that why don't we try another version of the facade? Okay. After all that, we came to the building, and one interesting thing was that what we tried to do in the old building, in the building from the 1950s, that we turned, as I told you, it from inside out. It means that we have seized the corridors. There are now some boxes for model making and so on. And we have removed all the walls, the partition walls, which were between, which separated the classrooms. This is during the construction, when we already removed the partition walls, and we also removed a few slabs. And I'm coming back to this axonometric view. So we have combined spaces, what you can have a thought about, and this is how it has become. We had some stairs between the floors in order to connect the floors with each other, to have more communication between the students or among the students. This is the building which was above. This is the base building for bachelor students. We have other voids. We have studio rooms, and here we have the seminar rooms. Here, seminar rooms, and here the studios. And one thing which is quite interesting, you can do it with no investor projects, just with state-financed projects, that you can give out a lot of money without them noticing that you give out a lot of money. You know? So we have made a suspended building. We have 3 cores, 1, 2, 3, and through these 3 cores, we have these huge beams, and this is suspended from all the floor slabs from these huge beams. And then we have a completely free story here on the ground floor level. So here you can see the beams, really huge beams. These are not pre-stressed, these are after-stressed beams. This was really a challenge by the statics engineer, for the statics engineer. Here you have the studios, and here you have, actually I didn't put the proper image here, but you have actually a really free vision or free sight of the outside. And this is the space in between. You have the beams here, and this is actually a transitory space between the studios and between the seminar rooms. And the third one, the so-called, let's say, Rubik's Cube, the Innovation Center, where we have done another thing with the voids. We have turned them around, and thus we had another kind of void system, another kind of communication or possibilities of communication. And this is the connection between the old building and the new building. We have actually a kind of flexible auditorium with a special fishbone beam system. The other side with an arena. This is the adjacent auditorium. This is the the PhD or the Innovation Center. And we had a very long discussion on the main entrance, which is actually, we are on a campus. We have 3-4 buildings, and we need a main entrance. And we have an entrance which is like leading to the Capitolium in Washington, D.C., with a central building. What can you do? Then we have the Rubik's Cube, another entrance which is marked by the axis, but we still need our main entrance. What do we do? That's another ironical intervention, I would say. We go under the ground to make a different quality, thus making, let's say, the main entrance. I don't know whether it's which is the main entrance. This is one of the entrances, and I like it very much. Then the third topic, this is for me the return of the ornament. Us Hungarians are, if I'm looking at Hungary or Hungarian art from the outside, we are actually very angry to decorate everything, you know, a lot of decorations. If you come to Budapest, once you have to study all the historical buildings, which are quite confused, turn of the century buildings, and decorated till the end. But then, what is more interesting, we come to the pre-modern era. This is one of the important architects, Béla Lajta, perhaps one of a few of you have heard about him. We have done a school for disabled children next to one of his buildings. And this is very interesting because you are actually, something is changing and you have no canon in architecture. You can try a lot of things, and he has tried to make another kind of decoration. So it's really very inspiring. And I come to the third one. This is the socialist realist area, which is also very interesting in Hungary, and I think also here in Slovakia, where you can find decoration which is really very, very interesting, which is not very classical, which is also a mixture. It's always very interesting to have mixtures, not pure canonized architecture, but mixtures of architecture. It's really very interesting. And I come to one of our first possibilities how to deal with decoration. We have done a building in Szeged in 2007, and our family trips were like that. At that time we had 3 kids, about 10 years old. And then we go to a city where we have the design place or where we have the plot, and the kids are suffering, and then we go somewhere to have a look, and that was the cathedral. At that time I didn't know. Then in 10 years we are going to make a project for that. But then I entered the cathedral and I said, no, oh my God, it's over decorated. I wouldn't do any project here. And in 10 years we have done the project here. So never say no, definitely no. And then as we studied the building, and also the scale, it's also very interesting. It's from 1932. It was a competition, a real competition at that time in Hungary, more than 150 submissions. And the guy who has won the competition, he was a landscape architect. And a lot of elements of landscape architecture appear in the design. So we had this huge commission with another architectural office. We did the project for 2 years. It was a very long time. And we still have a very good basis with this firm, with these architects. And these are the elements of intervention. I don't want to go into details because we are running short of time. No? Okay, then I talk about it. This is the Demetrius Tower. If you study a bit the history of Szeged, it's quite strange because it's actually very sad. Because there was a flood in 1976 or 1876, and only 3 or 4 buildings has remained out of the old Szeged. And at that time, our Kaiser, Franz Josef, has traveled there, and he has said that this is going to be more beautiful than it has been. This is going to be one of the most beautiful cities of the monarchy. And really, a lot of cities from all over Europe has donated money to rebuild the city. And the rings of the city are named after the cities which have contributed to the rebuilding of the city. For example, London, Berlin, and so on. Sorry. And funnily enough, if I can say funny in this case, there was a church which remained. This was actually a Baroque church, but nobody knew what was inside this Baroque church. And there was a long discussion where to put the new cathedral of Szeged, and they said, okay, we demolish the Baroque church, and we put it here. And that's why we see this quite strange or angle between the two churches. And they've started to build a church, and here there was still the Baroque church. It was an Il Gesù type church. There are two pieces in Hungary. This one was one of them, and the other one is in Győr, a Benedictine church. And then, as the building process proceeded, they have demolished also the towers. There was one tower, and even one of the greatest writers of that time has tried to defend the church on the top of the ruins with his own body, but he didn't succeed. But in the end, they've come to the core of the church, the core of this tower, and it has turned out to be a medieval tower, 13th century tower. And then after excavations, it has turned out that some parts of the church, of the foundation of the church, has been found. So it's an extremely complex situation right now. And this is, I would say, this is a kind of wandering church. It is from place to place, because the two towers were here. One of them has survived, but the church itself has moved from here to here. And this is the 14th century state of the church. So it has to be integrated. It was integrated. And one more thing, to have it more complicated, there are some summer festivals here, opera festivals. It can be compared with the one in Salzburg, not so famous, but here is a temporary stage for 5,000 people during the summers. So it's really huge. So it has to be integrated too. During the renovation, it has been turned 180 degrees. We have done also the design for this another stage. So it was really a very multifaceted process, how to deal with also with the festival and so on. But one thing was the church, the Matthäus Tower. Then we had, this was a former a wardrobe and cloakroom of the opera singers, but then they couldn't stay here anymore. This was the reception area for the church, and there was an unused space, the undercroft, which was used then for exhibitions and conferences, and also the urn cemetery. You have to know that the urn cemetery is a very good business for the church, so it had to be replaced, and of course it's extended to some extent. So this was a task. It had to be rebuilt, and it had to be just renovated. It had to be dealt with somehow. We didn't know how. And we also had to deal with the Western Tower. So it was really very complex. Here are the floor plans. And these are the spaces. They are really magical spaces, I would say. Who can build something like that nowadays with so many bricks? It was Actually, we wanted to show the bricks. It's a huge brick structure, but they were in such a bad shape that we said, no, we just have this rather abstract picture of the building. This is the tower. It's also very interesting to see. It was built, the building has been started in 1913, and 1914 stopped because of First World War. Then again, 1928 restarted, and at that time, these concrete structures were widespread, but at the beginning, not widespread. So this part of the building has been built in a different way, in a modern way, but still the garment, the clothing of the building was still historic. So a lot of things, if you deal with historical buildings, quite interesting. This is the reception area as you enter, and here you can go to the undercroft. Here we have actually a connection between historical spaces and the flat spaces, and we have found a very interesting, I would say, geometrical connection. Actually, it's a very good thing if you have a long process of design, because this has had a different design at the beginning, but only in the end have we come to the idea that it can be a fluent connection between the old and the new. This is from the new part. And there are a lot of stories when you deal with these old buildings. For example, the bishop wanted to remove the canopy from the apsis of the church to the middle, to the under the cupola of the church. And since it is one part with small stone mosaics, beautiful one, it had to be, put on rails to move it, and you can see the column which is removed, and only 30 meters, but in 3 weeks. So it was really amazing, and also these parts, these capitals were cast in gypsum in order to have a better statical values on the rails, and of course a lot of dramas in between. At the beginning, the construction firm said, okay, we make a cheap solution. We have 4 pumps, and we are going to look how they are going to lift the canopy. But then there was almost a crash, and they said, okay, we need just 1 pump. It's a more expensive one, but it can be lifted in a safer way. And since it has come into the middle, we had to make an altar. And our inspiration was actually the Madonna on the top of here. So we said, okay, we use one motif of the garment, what is usual there. But I've put also a quote here, which is, I don't know whether you can recognize who has said that. It's a modernistic architect, even from Vienna, who was against ornament, Adolf Loos. It's incredible. Ornament is the language through which architecture communicates with a broader public, and that's right, completely right. And what modern architecture has done is they have taken away interesting spaces, for example, these vaulted spaces, series of vaulted spaces, instead of that, flat ceilings. And then they've taken away decoration too. And now we see that decoration is knocking at our door, and these spaces are also knocking at our door. And what we have done, we have taken a pattern of embroidery, what is typical for the region. And then we have, of course, we have made it more simple, and we have consulted with a lot of firms how to make it, how can we cut with a water jet. And then we have come to the solution that we make a series of the same pattern, of course this more simple one, and how to make it round. And it's also very interesting if you make such a pattern, how you make the normal pattern, how you make the series, and how you make the edge, how you turn around. And at last we have come to this altar piece. And just to explain how you have to defend something, what is good. One of the chief architect of the church has tried out, just out of joke, that has put here in the middle a lamp. It could be funny to have a lamp, to have light from inside. And it was really hard work to have that lamp out of the altar, because it was really something against everything. And this is the pattern what you can see. And it was important that it has kind of handicrafted feeling, and still you feel that it's not totally handicrafted. And then another ornamental part, we had a few, or decorated part, but I've mentioned that the landscape architect who has won this competition has done a lot of things which have very close relationship with landscape, and these are actually flower beds. And we have used it as for the grills, for the air outlets around the church where it was needed. And we have simplified also the pattern and had a different scale, of course, but then it was possible to make these kind of grills. As I told you before, it was a very long process, so we had a lot of opportunity to experiment. And this is the entrance to the undercroft. This is the pilgrim's canteen, very simple one with some tiles behind. This is the Demetrius tower, what I've spoken before. And we wanted just to hide the bricks because it was in very bad state. You know, the groundwater level is 0 in Szeged because of the floods. So it was all the time flooded, so it is in very bad shape. Okay. And this is actually a kind of invention, this light. We needed because of fire protection, some air inlets here to the undercroft, and these were the air inlets through the stairs, but it's also very nice that we have some light from inside to the outside. Okay, another thing what we had as decoration, what we have found here was very little. This is a very important castle in Hungary. One of the main princes have lived here. The Esterházy is probably known for you. And we haven't done the middle part, which is a very historical part and which is a very monumental, very sensitive part. It has to be always renovated, and there is also always a very severe discussion between the Monuments Authority and architects like us, how to preserve a monument like that. So thanks God we didn't have to do this one. But what we had to do is this part of the monument. It is the so-called horseshoe wing and also the picture gallery. We knew that there was a picture gallery here, but as the Russians came in 1945, they've ruined everything. Even the ceilings, and we didn't have any literature, any marks, any plans, how it looked like. So we were free to do what we want. Then we said, okay, we take something from this from this flat barrel vaulted ceiling, and we had also some kind of reference. This is one reference, but this happens many times in Europe in Baroque buildings, that we have these coffered parts which depict in churches always some biblical, some events from the Bible, and these are different here in Palazzo Farnese. But they have also always to do something to do with the sky, and the sky has to do something with light. And we said, okay, we take this idea, this abstract idea, and we just take the covered panels, and we just take the light. And it's very practical because you are in a picture gallery. You need light, and you have also a very far relationship with these Baroque vaulted images. And of course, because of the museum's requirements, we also need some special light and also some special air conditions. We have air inlets here. This is how it looks like. Without pictures, now we have already pictures. Oh, it was quick. Sorry. And this is, we had also no idea what was it like. So it's also a kind of play with three-dimensional flooring possibilities. This is the reception element, and we said, okay, illusion is very, very important, was very important at that time. So we had this reception desk, which is actually mirroring the surroundings, and also this chandelier with these glass elements, which were very typical at that time, but lights, downlights, and also which reflect, light reflecting from the ceiling. And this is the typical reconstruction with some play here that we had no white. We said, okay, we change, I mean, we had no traces of paintings. We change color on our own. And this was this bluish color with the guys who has done these paintings. The aim was to have actually a seamless relationship between the old and new, contemporary and traditional, and this is our actually statement towards monuments, that we do not want to show explicitly what has happened in the past. I mean, we are not in a museum, we are in a building. We have to make a new unity out of these old elements, and we have to add something. Okay, the last topic, space and light. Interestingly, space and light is very different if you have a building, a light building or a heavy building. For example, here, this is a heavy building. This is an old Cistercian church in the northeastern part of Hungary, and this is a Turkish bath in Budapest. You can see how light, I would say, works itself through the structure. So it's totally different than this one or this one. This one is from the 1930s and this one is from 1970s. This light structure, and light is coming through lightly, something like that. And one example is an office building, a light one, which was done in Budapest, and the challenge here was that we have actually building blocks and small gaps in between. Here also gaps. And in such a way you have also a view from the street into the building gaps, but the problem was that we have a firewall here. So how to make a traditional office building if you have no possibility for windows on one side, and you have actually a possibility to make window in this direction in the gap. And this was a challenge, and we were lucky because our client, he's actually a private person who made his money with his brain. So we could explain him that he doesn't have to make so many square meters, but he can densely have his people in the office if you make some place in the atrium behind, and you have plenty of light. Actually, we have such a good connection that first we had a residential building for him. It was 1998. Then we had this office building, and we've just finished a summer house for him. A nice story. One of our best clients. So what we have done is that we have made actually an atrium with protruding cubes here, and here we have the office, the row of offices, and this is what you can see here. This is the atrium, and this is the row of offices, and we have actually open offices and quite normal ones, but I can't show you right now. And this is the ground floor. Actually, a very, very simple building. We have actually open air, and we have a very dense area here, and we have all the functional things behind. And since the name of the firm is geometry, we made some play out of geometry, and we made some connection with this building. This is made of brick, and this is also made of brick, but it's a bit bigger, these bricks, and it's made of glass, of course. And in order to make it more complicated, I tell you, I wouldn't make such a building anymore. It's so complicated, and it's so technically difficult that we have worked really a lot on the construction side too. So, and another element that goes back to decoration, that we have these small discs referring back to the 1970s. Our client likes very much the music of 1970s, Beatles, for example. It was over 1970s. Okay, this is the inside of the building. Mick Jagger, he was also 1970. This is the inside of the building. As you see, we have plenty of light. This is the atrium. If you look upwards, you have actually a lot of cubes which are, I would say, hovering in the air. And these cubes have kitchens or meeting places, or above these cubes you have also meeting places. So on one side it's a very dense row of offices. On the other side it's a very fresh and very, very much air inside, and of course light. The other one is a bath, Turkish bath in Budapest. And this is how light comes through heavy material. Very complicated situation. This is no more the original Turkish bath. It is actually, the Turkish bath is based on the Roman baths. We have three parts: the cold one, the medium warm one, and the very warm one. The frigidarium, tepidarium, and caldarium. And we have the frigidarium and caldarium here, and this is actually a Baroque part. This is the Baroque part, and this is the Classicist part. So to make a long story short, we have said, okay, we insert the cold part here into the Baroque part. We make some auxiliary spaces here, and we make actually a kind of extra space here for extra purposes. We have the entrance here, we have done the entrance through here, and we have a special pool here. And the theme was always how you tackle water, the experience with water, different states of water, for example, steam, hot water, thermal water, and we have really very good thermal water here. This is from above. This is the Baroque part, this is the Ottoman part, and this is the Classicist part, and this is what we have put it to this part. This is the original part, and this is the light. Again, light and steam, different conditions. It's very, very interesting, and totally contradictory to the one what we have seen in the atrium. This is the Baroque part, what we have covered with roof, and we have some cones through which light comes in, and this is also actually a lookout on the cupolas of the old part. And this is the new part where we try to have the same effect. some mystical light from above and steam also. So it is not about, it's about enjoying water, it's enjoying to be slow, enjoying to be here, to have this historical surrounding. And on the top, it was also part of the program, we made a sauna. And after this, I come back to the very first question. You have to change the world. What are you going to do? Thank you very much for your attention. And thank you very much for your attention, but now it's your turn.
Yes, Zsolt, thank you very much for your very interesting and exciting lecture, actually. My first idea when you show these last images about the bath, we've been talking about it. You perhaps remember the competition on Grösling bath here in Bratislava, and Zsolt's office also took part in the competition. Unfortunately, they did not won the competition, also because of me, because I was in the jury. But no, but this is not what I wanted to say. But actually, when you put it that the experience of water and Turkish bath is about enjoying the silence, about contemplation, perhaps. So this is something completely different that normally is associated with these new water worlds, because it's always about having fun. So I mean, for us here in Bratislava, it would be, or it will be something new, because Grösling is also to be this kind of very peaceful place. So is it common in Budapest that all of these places are more related with let's say relaxation and not that much with fun? So this is a kind of tradition, probably.
I think tourists are coming to Budapest, a lot of tourists, because they like this atmosphere of these old baths where you cannot swim really, but you can be there. You can enjoy thermal water. You can enjoy steam baths. We have worked together with John Posen. I think you know John Posen. He is the, let's say, minimalist architect. We have done the Pannonhalma Basilica together. Of course, he was the architect. We were his Hungarian translations against monument authorities.
Local architects.
Yes, local architects, let's say, local architects. And we have learned a lot from this work together. And actually, he didn't appreciate Hungary very much. He said, okay, I come to Budapest, because he always arrived in Vienna by plane. And he was taken to Pannonhalma, to the western part of Hungary. And once he had a plane to Budapest, and they said, okay, can you fetch me from the airport? And we have half a day for Budapest. They said, okay. And then he has been to one of the baths, and he liked it very much. And then I made him a tour in the city by along the Danube, and then he asked me to please call the abbot that we are going to be late. So it was more than half a day. It was about a day in Budapest. And then I have another friend who is architect, and they have come to Budapest to our flat. They had our flat for a week with a family. And every day they went to a different bath, because he wanted to check all the traditional baths. So I think Budapest has a kind of flair for the baths. It's really worth coming to the baths to experience those really different baths. But we also have this problem with the aqua parks, of course. We have a lot of aqua parks, even when we have very good thermal water. And as far as I can remember, you don't have thermal water in Grösling baths.
No, it's just ordinary water.
Yes, and that's a big difference. If you have thermal water, it's a bit different. Then you can feel the deepness of the water. It has some material inside, you know.
Yeah, but we are able to make an aqua park even with thermal water and try to imagine the whole
Yes.
Slovak territory is full of thermal water and everywhere you can find these crazy aqua parks because, yeah, people love it. But yeah, I'm not here the one who should ask questions. So please, dear colleagues, if you have some questions for Zsolt, I will deliver the micro to you and then you can ask.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm just wondering about your use of colors because, well, when you showed us the knowledge building school in Budapest, the interior part, I thought immediately of the Unité d'habitation of Corbusier, where he really built those corridors as streets with like each apartment having its own distinct color. So when I saw those multicolored steel parts of the building, it was for me a clear reference, but then later on as you showed many things that were like mostly white or maybe grayish, I started to wonder whether you have some like general approach or whether it's more just about intuition and the material you are using for that specific project.
Picasso had different phases in his life. The blue one, then the rosa one, and so on. And I think, I don't want to say that we are similar to Picasso, but I think we have our own phases. At the beginning, we had a colorful phase, I would say. We had this red building for Audi in Dieu, and some other colorful buildings. And then somehow we have reduced the colors, not because of John Posen. We have done it already before. And then I even had a few years ago a lecture with the title of Different Shades of White. And I've just shown white buildings, what we have done. And now we have enough of white, I would say. We are more concentrated on not really colors, but on textures, which have different shades, but softer shades. And perhaps this one, this competition project is an exception with bright colors. But I think it's appropriate for this kind of building. And I don't want to. I don't want to be dogmatic, you know, that we do just this one. I don't want to be the architect who has her or his stigma. We want to be a bit free. What we think is important is rather the conceptual core of our projects. And out of this we evolve the building, and whether we use color or not color, it depends on the task and on the phase in which we are.
Okay, thank you very much.
Some more questions. I hope there are many of them, so please just raise your hand that I can. Oh, yes, thank you. Please.
I would like to ask, you asked an interesting sentence in the beginning of your presentation. You said that too much of practice could lead to losing your goal as an architect. And what would you do differently instead of practicing too much? Thank you.
A good question. We are lucky because we have crisis sometimes, and sometimes we have a good economical situation when there's plenty of money. It means that as I worked on my doctoral thesis, it was about 2003 and 2009, and we didn't have too much to do. And then we had this world crisis in 2008, and then we also had some possibility to think about our direction where we go to. And actually, I felt a bit annoyed in the last 2 years that we have too many practical things. And I wouldn't say that I'm happy right now that we are heading for a crisis, but we don't see such a crisis situation so black. So I think it's very good to be sometimes on one side and on the other side. And what I've told you about our book, it was very important for us to think, I mean, we have done this book. Anyway, I've got here a few for sale. If you want to buy them, I'm going to put it on the table. In order to range our thoughts, our ideas, in order to see what things are important for us, and how to build upon these main goals. It was quite interesting at the beginning of the making of the book. I told the editor that I've got 4 things which are important: concept, context, space, and decoration. And he said, no, it's very dull. And after many rounds, the same as with the Art University, facade of the Art University, we have come back to the same ideas, but with different titles. So I think it's very important sometimes to go back, just to sit down and think.
Okay.
Not to draw.
Thank you.
If I might add, it goes actually for all creative people that after emitting all these creative responses to the environment, then you need time to absorb some influences, to think about it, and because it's not always like you can produce, because then it is really only about production and not really about creativity and then creation. But there are some questions from our colleagues who are online, so Cornelius will now read them.
Thank you. We were actually very interested to see that your portfolio displays both new structures and older renovations as well. So the question was, if you had to choose, would you prefer doing renovations or interventions into older historical buildings, or do you prefer the challenges and excitement of building something new?
I have to tell you, as I grow older, I prefer the historical monuments because they are multi-layered. You have to study the past. You have to build up a kind of a relationship with the past, and of course with the possibility to create something in the old one. I mean, not just to renovate, but to make a new unity out of old and new. Then it's a challenge, and I prefer to do that than to build a new building. It's too easy sometimes.
Thank you. Perhaps some questions from the audience, which is here. If not, then there was another question from outside the room.
The second question we had was, you talked about complications that you mentioned in connection with the building with the circles. So you wouldn't make a complicated building like that anymore. I can imagine all that details and having to solve the technical bridges and so on and so forth. But isn't that, that complex structure what makes the building more remarkable? What's your opinion on that?
I think this complex structure, if structure too complex, is very vulnerable. That's why I am not really for very complicated technical structures. It can be let's say, an engineering structure or a detail structure. And I think if I may say so, if I go in the right direction, I go in the right direction if I can do a simple structure. I think this is my answer to the question. But if I have to, I'm going to do it.
Thank you. Questions from your side, dear colleagues? Just raise the hand, and if not, it's okay anyway. But I wanted to ask you, because as you told about László Moholy-Nagy, how inspiring person actually he was and he is still, because I mean, many architects and many, well, artists refer to him and to his wife, Sibyl, of course, as well. So my question would be that there are so many actually extraordinary representatives of modernism coming from Hungary and then like traveling to USA and never come back. So if there is still a kind of relation of the Hungarian architecture scene towards these people, or, you know, if there are still architects in Hungary referring to this kind of tradition, if they are somehow intellectually connected with this kind of legacy, or if it's not the case.
I think we have we don't do too much work on our past, on our modernistic past. The theoretical backgrounds for I can remember right now German words, sorry. To work on how to or what to use out of this past when we do not know it really. For example, one example, last night I've read about Marcel Breyer, who has left the country and he wanted to build something in Hungary, and there was somebody who supported him from the university at that time, 1960s, as he was really a world famous architect at that time, but he didn't manage to. So this is the fate of the Hungarian architects who have emigrated, that they cannot do anything later in Hungary, and they actually disappear from the Hungarian scene. And where I am not satisfied at all, that some biographies are done right now by people, by scientists and theorists and so on, and they are not thorough enough. So you cannot compare a biography or a biography done on Loos, for example, or done on Béla Lajta. He's one of my favorite architects in Hungary. It is like a Bilderbuch. No real investigation, no real aesthetical appearance, and then it has been done, and we can wait another 20 years till money is collected to do the next ones. So these are the chances which are actually not used, and that's why, because they are not so present, they have no real impact on Hungarian architects, I think. And since we have too many magazines and the internet, and everybody's looking in the internet, what is new, what is the newest, we know that what is the newest today is going to be the dullest tomorrow. So, but these things are missing right now in Hungary, but I think they are going to gain on importance later on. And back to these people who have emigrated, for example, the doctoral school in Pécs, in the south of Hungary, is named after Marcel Breyer, or the design university is named after Moholy-Nagy. So they are coming back slowly, but actually the real investigation or the research is for me missing. They are not really present. That's a problem.
Oh, that's a pity, because actually we do not have this kind of emigration wave we would like to have. And I mean, it's always very important to go back to the roots and somehow like analyze what we are and where are we coming from and where are we going. questions.
But
I don't want
actually, another idea that this is a very typical thing that Hungarian architects have emigrated and they have made a career abroad, but no one knows about famous Hungarian architects who have done their career in Hungary. That is the same. The same goes for Hungarian scientists. We have a few Nobel Prize winners from Hungary, but about 90 or 95% of them have done their Nobel Prize already abroad. And the newest one, who I hope she's going to get the Nobel Prize, who has invented Katalin Karikó, perhaps you have heard the name, who has invented the syringe against COVID, for example, or the basic research she has done it for that. That's a kind of fate from Hungary.
Yeah, it's very strange.
It's strange, yes.
That you are abandoned if you are out of your own country.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, but we have our experiences with this as well.
But
it reminds me of something. Sorry for interrupting you, because you started your lecture with this kind of that you went out of Hungary to make some exercise in a good offices in Vienna, and then you published your book, which is published in by foreign editor. Our publishing house is in English, etc., etc. Do you think it's important for an architect to advertise his work and his person abroad, and not only like to do it in his own country or in his own place even? This could be an advice for your
yes,
future young colleagues.
I thought that we are going to make a book. It was quite sure that we are going to make a book. It was about how thoroughly this book is going to be done. We thought in Hungary that kind of research what we have put in the book with the theoretical writings. For example, a few German writers have written in the book, and Ákos Moravánsky has written in the book. Is not going to, or the chance that it's going to happen in Hungary is very little. That's why we said that we make it rather abroad. This was one thing, that we didn't want to make just a show of our projects and of our buildings, but we wanted to give something more. That's why it's really very interesting. There's one book which is open, you can have a look at it. But back to your question, I think it's very important to show the values, what we do in the Eastern countries, and what are not known let's say, in such countries which have a higher, let's say, architectural culture. So it's we have values. We have friends from abroad, and they are coming and say, "Oh, that's great. Why don't you show it?" So this was also a kind of wish to show that we do also some precious things. For example, socialist realism. That's very, very interesting. That hasn't happened in Western countries. It is something very special for the Eastern countries, and especially for Hungary and Slovakia, for example, this building, and a few other countries in the Eastern Germany is not so good in this case. But we have some, or before, for example, Béla Lajta, this kind of not pure modernism. This I would say infected modernism with decoration and always this. I don't know how to say in English. This second wave of modernism, for example, in Scandinavia, Leverens and the guys like that. Who were not in the mainstream, but has done something which is far more interesting.
It's regional variations or something like
yes.
this.
So that, we have come to this idea. As I'm the national selector in Piran for Hungary, for the Hungarian projects. And after a few years, we have come to the idea with my wife that we have really some special flair in our architecture, not Hungary, but that this region, this Middle European region. So it has to be shown, and it's going to be interesting, I think, for the world after so many let's say, very abstract or very clean buildings. We are not so clean, we are different.
Thank you. I mean, this is also a kind of important message for all of us to don't to be too shy, and don't be shy. You should present your work. You should present your ideas because they are worth to be presented. And then we are coming to our discussion before the lecture that architects are not doing only the forms and the buildings, they have also a kind of social commitment, and they have to be engaged because they are able to influence actually the society somehow. Are there some questions, or are you already tired? I can imagine that it could be also the case. If there are no more questions, then